you repeatedly stressed that in order for Shannon and Cork to grow, that they needed to be cheaper than Dublin, or at least as cheap as it. You also talked about, or at least Eddie Wilson did a couple of minutes ago, this people want to get in and get out quickly out of an airport. I mean, there was a marked contrast between Shannon and Dublin this summer. You know, you were queuing for hours in Dublin, you were through Shannon in 10 minutes, you could have a pint or read a poem or do the downward dog or whatever you wanted to do before you got on your flight. You know, does Shannon have to be cheaper in those circumstances? You talked about your friend from Nina who used to fly from Shannon, now flies from Dublin, and the impact of roads. But roads go in two directions, and you know, even at the best of times in Dublin, you have, if you're going at rush hour, you have traffic jams right up the M7, and to the extent that some people have even bought taxi licenses to avoid those traffic jams. So I mean, is the hinterland for Shannon growing and getting closer to Dublin, particularly during rush hour, or does it simply not matter to people? They just look at the price and they'll put up with whatever hassle they have to put up with to get a flight for a five or less?
You see, I think we've got to be careful to recall what happened last summer. Dublin Airport was grim through April, May and into June, but through July, August, September, actually it was pretty good, and you know, security, we got there in the end. There is no doubt in my mind that Shannon and Cork were direct beneficiaries last summer. Families who I know said, I'm not going to Dublin Airport, we'll go to Shannon, we'll get the flight to Reyes or with the flight board. It was very good for both Cork and Shannon. It has been helpful to the growth of Cork, and Cork and Shannon are both growing at the moment. We're talking to both airports about additional aircraft. But it is, you've got to start off with the first principles. 60% of the traffic in Dublin is inbound, and it's inbound because it wants to go to Dublin. And you know, there's no way you can change that. You take the big nationalities, the UK all want to come to Dublin. They will travel around the rest of the country. You get more of the Italians, the Germans, and the French will want to. There's a bit of that will go to the west of Ireland. They will use more Cork and Shannon. But you can't make it as you would wish it to be just by wishing it. If there is more traffic there who want to go to Cork and Shannon, don't worry, we'll carry it. And we are working very closely with Mary Constantine, the team in Shannon, and Neil McCarthy, the team in Cork. They've done great work. Cork and Shannon, but I was asked, you know, what's the future for Cork and Shannon? They must be materially cheaper than Dublin Airport. There is no other way. But they are, I'm pleased to say, both growing independently of Dublin at the moment, while Dublin is recovering and growing as well. And there is growth available for everybody there. But it is not, you're not going to kind of restrict Dublin and people will go to Shannon and Cork. If you restrict Dublin, people will go to Oslo or Vienna or somewhere else.
Mentioned earlier the relative attractiveness of Limerick and Dublin as weekend destinations, but another city that's a very attractive weekend destination is Galway. The closest airport, or the fastest airport to get to and from Galway is Shannon. It's connected by rail and with the motorway. Whose job is it to highlight that? Is it Shannon Airports? Is it Galway City Council? Or is it the airlines?
I mean, it is actually probably, it's Galway's. If Galway wants to attract visitors, it's up to Galway to attract them. But the way for Galway to, I mean, the vast majority of visitors to Galway, and I am an expert on the M4, are coming to Dublin and driving down the M4. Connectivity of Galway to Dublin Airport is phenomenal. If you will get to Dublin Airport faster from Galway than you will get to Knock. Shannon, you get there
faster. Right. If you've only got a weekend, it's an awful waste of time to spend in the M4.
Shannon's faster, but it's a difficult pull. It is a reasonably difficult sell to persuade people to go to Shannon to spend a weekend in Galway. They will find it. They generally find it much easier. They'll come to Dublin and do a day shopping and then go do whatever they want to do. But we are happy to carry them. We'll take them to Galway either through Knock, Shannon, or Dublin. All of those options are available to them.
Accommodation costs, I mean, obviously people go to different parts of the country and people are impacted by costs. I mean, a large proportion of the hotel beds in Clare at the moment are not available to tourists. Yeah. It has to be a government priority to provide alternative accommodation for the people who, through no fault of their own, are in those beds now. If that doesn't happen and there's a shortage of hotel beds, which will drive up the cost of the existing beds, do you think that will impact upon tourism in the long term? And sorry, I have one other question while I have time. You've talked a lot about sustainable aviation fuel. Have you any realistic hope for hydrogen? I know Elon Musk has said no, but he said it's a lot of things. He's one of the,
I mean, hydrogen, possibly there may well be a commercial hydrogen engine availability, but we're talking 2040 to 2050. There's nothing on the horizon before 2040. The aircraft we're buying now will be flying from 2028 through till 2045. There is no hydrogen technology at the moment. Rolls-Royce and EasyJet did a test on a test cell this week. There will be no hydrogen, and I'm not sure whether hydrogen, given it's a very flammable gas, there will be challenges, but certainly not in I would like to say, career in the aviation business. I'd probably go as far as say not in my lifetime am I going to see hydrogen, but that's probably too far away. And the other point, sorry, I forgot the first point.
Just accommodation cost.
Accommodation but by the way, accommodation is a huge challenge in Ireland, but accommodation is a huge challenge in the UK, all over Europe. I mean, and I'm not I don't want to get into the housing crisis. Hotel accommodation is under extreme pressure. There's lots of hotels that closed down during COVID. Some of that capacity in Spain and Italy hasn't come back. There are Ukrainian refugees in some of that accommodation all over Europe. It is a real challenge. And it is something, that I don't have an immediate or a quick, ready solution to that in the next year or two. I think accommodation and the price of accommodation is going to be a huge challenge. I come back to the Deputy Smith from Swords. I mean, be in no doubt accommodation for our staff in areas like Swords and Shannon and Cork is a real challenge for us as well.
Just driving Airbnbs out of the market is mooted by some as a solution. I mean, it might provide more accommodation for your staff, but less for your customers. Do you have any thoughts on it?
Honestly, we're not in a position in this country. I would not drive Airbnb out of the marketplace. We need accommodation from all sources. I would be encouraging the government as best we can to encourage Airbnb. There are lots of spare bedrooms in lots of houses all over the country that could be converted into Airbnbs pretty quickly if we could use the technology. We are short. I mean, our population has risen to, 5 million people. It's going to 6 million people, I think, in the next 10 years, and then it's going to 8 million people. None of the solutions we're talking about now, fiddling around with the tax system, have never worked. We need large-scale, certainly in Dublin, large-scale high-rise developments of apartments, and we need them ASAP, and whatever the government has to do to deliver them, it should do. And certainly start off with fixing the traffic system around Dublin and getting Dublin Airport Dublin city managers, that their job is not building swimming facilities in the Custom House docks. It is putting up 40-storey and 50-storey tower blocks of apartments. I mean, I fly to more cities around Europe, and Dublin is the only city I arrive into where we do not. Everybody wants a family home. We have huge numbers of our employees who are under the age of 30 do not want family homes. They're not looking for 4-bedroom houses with a front and a back garden. They want apartments. They want apartments in the centre of town where they can enjoy their leisure time. It fixes the transport city, and this restriction, this ludicrous system we have in Dublin of being afraid to go up in one of the fastest growing capital cities of Europe is absurd. And to me, that's the obvious solution. It's not building more houses out in Kildare or Westmeath or in Wicklow or in Drogheda. We've got to go up in the centre of this town, and we've got to go up now, and the government should have a crisis team working on it.